And then the first realization of streaming sets in. And that is this axiom: if you're not growing, you're dying. So let's see what's going on here. Okay. Y'all can see this, hear this?
About streamers being depressed?
Streamers
Pack watch.
depression. Anyway, don't call this Squid Game if you see me wearing on stream.
Depression.
So I was talking, like, I've talked to a few streamers. I talked to XQC, Hassan, Mizzy, in my own feelings, even Saikuno, and I realized that every single streamer will readjust how they feel about how they're doing, like, very quickly. So if they're like 10K Andy, like, you know, everyone was at one point, and then they jump to 20K Andy, they'll be like, oh, that's really exciting. It's cool. Novel. And then they will immediately, like, within a week, be like, I am a 20K Andy. Anything below that is bad.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll be like, if I just hit 30K, I'll be happy.
It's called there's a lot of aspects here. One is called the disease of more. You just need more and more and more to fill the void, especially if you drop below some sort of watermark that's arbitrary.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really fucked up. Gambling's the same way. I would know.
What's funny is there's always a number, though, that'll be like, if I hit this, I will be happy. Like, if I can just consistently get 30K viewers, I'll be happy. And all of them, the answer is no. Like, even XQC, the biggest streamer on the platform, I remember during ShitCon, he was like 110K, like GTA RP, just killing it. Then he would like drop down to 60. You know, he's streaming at like midnight to like 7 a.m. degenerate schedule. And then he was at ShitCon. He's like, yeah, I'm fucking washed, dude. Like, I got no content. And it's like he's mostly saying it in like an ironic way, but I think he like part of him like sees the night. He's not blind. He sees the fucking numbers. So they're all depressed and all thinking about it.
Are you depressed?
No.
No,
because you know what? And this is what I realized what I did. I hit the subathon, fucking the largest penis on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And then I pivoted.
What?
Made the yard, made mogul merch. And now all of my like self-happiness is in those projects.
Yeah, you sort of invested not your money, well, it's your money to an extent, but mostly your emotional self into different buckets.
What percentage of your happiness is in the yard?
You diversified.
What
The
percentage?
yard happiness it's like a solid like 12.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Out
of
of
what?
That's
no.
100?
Out of 100?
12%.
What did you think? Out of 1 million.
I just don't.
What?
1 million credits, and it's 12 of them.
12%. Yeah, I don't know. I think
That's pretty good.
I think that you struggle to think critically about your own. See, that's what I'm saying. Right there.
Bro, you started
Like, talking about.
dude. You started talking, and he instantly was playing drums.
I know.
Like it's like.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that right now he's now you're an ape. Oh,
Okay.
little head action.
Wow, that was pretty good.
Catchy.
Thanks, guys.
That's
You
pretty
really
good.
got it.
Anyway, they're all depressed except for me.
Yeah, I think
Who's
I
the
will
happiest
say
streamer?
I'm
in your
confused
opinion?
about so
Besides
much
you.
of this.
nobody. It's a fucking
No,
it's Ouroboros.
I'm
It would
too
be
bad
like
at
it would be
reacting.
like the gamers, like Tyler One, like the people who literally show up to play a video game they love, like Tens. Shroud's probably happy because he just shows up and just plays
All right,
whatever
I'm
game
going
he
to just
wants.
pause this for a second. So I guess I was supposed to react to this. And sorry, so sometimes instead of reacting, I suppose I just listen. So let's just take a look at this too. So I saw that this was not the only, so I guess Ludwig and co were talking about, you know, all streamers being depressed. And then there was this article, I think yesterday in the Wall Street Journal about Twitch live streamers talking about how playing games is hard work. And then like aching back, stress, and weight gain are job hazards for video gamers. And others who perform online for hours a day in front of an audience. For the most, the money isn't even that good. So you don't have to do this performing online. This is just the job hazards for gaming. You don't even have to be a streamer. You can still get aching back, stress, and weight gain. But so I wanted to share with you guys, like, so here's what I kind of think about this stuff, right? So this guy was talking about kind of this the hedonistic treadmill, or like the disease of more or whatever. So at this point at Healthy Gamer, we've worked with like hundreds of content creators. And here's like basically what we've learned, okay? So the first thing to understand about like mental health and content creators and like burnout and stuff, I've done burnout work at hospitals. I've done it at law firms. I've done it at investment banks, private equity firms. I've done it at colleges. And so the first thing to understand is that there are some aspects of burnout that are specific to a particular industry. And then there are some aspects of burnout that are actually like common, right? So a big thing that's going on with streamers nowadays is when they say like, oh, we're all depressed. I think there's legitimacy to that. We'll get to that in a second. But the first thing to understand is that there are some aspects of burnout that may be applicable to everyone, whether you're a college student or you work at an investment bank or you're a streamer. But one of the things that we really have learned is that technology and the situations that it creates, including streaming, have a set of specific challenges that are common within that industry. And those tend to be a little bit different from like standard kinds of burnout. So here's basically what happens with a streamer, okay? You start out with you start streaming, right? And at the beginning, it's fun. You've got like 5 viewers, you're doing it on the side. It's not like a part of your job or anything like that. You're going to show up on chat, like 3 people show up, y'all are vibing. They're having a good time, you're having a good time. There's no expectations about it, right? There's no, you're just doing it because it's fun. So that's like the beginning of the streamer life cycle, okay? So here's the streamer life cycle. It starts out, you're small, no expectations, whatever. Then you start growing. And then maybe you start making a little bit of money, and that's super exciting at the beginning, right? Like this is happening. It's a real thing. Your Twitch chat is loving you. Your stream is growing. People are posting about it. You get a clip on LSF, yay, right? So 100 viewers, 200 viewers, 300 viewers, maybe you get rated by someone. You're up to 1,000 viewers. And then the first realization of streaming sets in. And that is this axiom: if you're not growing, you're dying. So then your mind starts to think, okay, I've got 2 options, either I'm growing or I'm dying, right? That's what happens on the internet. It's what happens in social media. It's either people are growing or they're dying. And this becomes a serious problem because once you start creating content and your content does well, this is the tricky thing. Why is it doing well? You don't know, right? You never really understand. It's not like you can do a biopsy to Twitch chat and figure out what's doing well and what isn't. Something about what you're doing is kind of organic and it's free and it's fun and people seem to be liking it. And if you've got to be growing, otherwise you're dying. So how do you grow more? You're not really sure because you don't really understand what's responsible for your growth in the first place. And so faced with this kind of idea of if you're not growing, you're dying, then what happens is you're I don't know how to consistently grow, right? And this is where the first phase of burnout kind of happens, which is I can't consistently grow. I don't know what this formula is. But what I can control, what is within my control to affect growing or dying, is how much I stream. So if I farm streaming, right? If I just stream for 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, if I do this, if I do that, if I just stream more, if I give more of myself to this thing, then my chances of growing are greater than my chances of dying. That's the only thing we can really figure out as streamers, is that I can increase the amount of time I spend on something to become more successful. So they start to give of themselves to the stream, right? And in really drastic situations, you end up with cases like Ice Poseidon, where he gave everything he had to his stream and it did not end well. So you have to grow or you're dying. That's phase 1. So you give of yourself and then you start to burn out. Phase 2 is you're kind of established. You're a streamer now. Now there's a financial incentive. And you're sort of you've quit your job, you're making enough money, you've made it as a streamer. So this is where the gravy train is rolling in, right? You're making some money, you're paying your bills, people are vibing with you, you roll out your merch, everything's going great. And so you should be happy at that point, right? No. Here's where the second revelation of streaming comes in. The sand in your hourglass is running out because no streamer lasts forever. So at the first phase, you're growing or dying, but eventually all organisms come to an end. Death is inevitable, right? You're not going to be like a 60-year-old streamer because that's what happens to streamers. So then what happens is streamers start to think oh my God, I better milk this before I get small. There's going to be an inevitable reduction in my viewer count. And so I've got to milk it for as long as I can because I don't know if this is going to be around a year from now. I don't know if everyone's going to leave me a year from now. There's a lot of other things going into that. But then the sand in the hourglass starts running out. So then what you have to do is can you cut back on your stream hours? No. Now that you've started to be successful, if you start to cut back, people will leave, someone else will grow, it's going to be GG. So you better make the money while you can, you better grow while you can, because who knows when there's going to be someone who's funnier, sexier, more intelligent, more capable than you are who starts streaming and then they're going to take your viewers. So now you're trapped, right? Because this is an opportunity that will run out. Buy now because this sale ends at the end of the month. You have 3 days. If you order in the next 72 hours, you will get an additional 20% off. And then that opportunity will never come back to you ever again. And then everything that you've invested into streaming, because let's remember that you kind of quit your job, you dropped out of school and all that kind of stuff. You don't have any option B. So now the sand in the hourglass is running out. So you better, go as hard as you can for as long as you can before it's too late. So now there's a fear, there's an uncertainty, there's a paranoia that all of your opportunity will be gone. Then you enter the third phase of streaming, the third phase of burnout in the streamer life cycle. And that's when like you've grown so big that suddenly like you feel trapped. I know it sounds kind of weird, but at some point you sort of figure out what the internet wants from you. And when you started out streaming, it was like streaming for fun, right? You did what you wanted to do and the internet responded to it. But then over time, what happens is like your audience has certain expectations. They expect quality from you. They expect perfection from you. They expect the same formula because that's how you succeed, right? You don't have like a successful content creator who is like cooking one day and playing WoW the next day and then like, you know, lecturing about calculus the third day. Streamers have a particular niche, and generally speaking, the more that you support that niche, the more you grow. But the more that you support that niche and the more you grow because of that niche, the more trapped you become. And so the third phase of burnout is like you've got 1 million followers and you have big streams, but you can't do what you feel like anymore because everyone wants you to be a particular thing, right? And we see this with like a lot of streamers. Well, it's not just streamers. It even happens with celebrities who get like typecast, right? So like that's the current incarnation of typecasting a celebrity. Is like a streamer gets trapped by the content they create. And then they fall into this problem where they can't really like, they don't want to do it anymore. It doesn't feel fun anymore. It's not organic. It's forced, but you can't stop because people expect it from you. And like, you just got to keep going. And so that's the third stage of burnout. So this is like the burnout life cycle for streamers that we have discovered after, you know, working with hundreds of streamers. We've discovered that there's actually like a specific and common thing within streaming as an industry that's different from like working at a law firm, for example. And this is what it looks like. On top of that, there are these things that I call amplifiers. So interlaced through all of this that amplifies the burnout at each step of the way is social media. So this is like a real problem because at every step of the way, social media and comparison are always happening. Because at each step of the way, there's like some kind of comparison that makes each of those three stages worse. When you're growing, there's someone else who's growing more than you are. When the sand in the hourglass is running out, when you're in phase 2, you see other streamers that are like you that begin to die, right? And then you're like, oh my God, like this person is fading away into nothingness and that's going to be me next. Or other people are blowing up while you are just growing, right? So you see other people who are eclipsing you. There's another WoW streamer now. Now there's a Lost Ark streamer. Oh my God, can you imagine how many MMO streamers started shitting their pants when Asmongold stopped streaming WoW? Just think about that for a second, right? I'm not blaming anyone in any of that, just to be clear, right? It's because people should stream what they want to stream. But like Asmongold is coming for us, right? Like he's coming for our followers. That's the way that streamers reacted to him like changing games. And so like even at the second phase, it's like, oh my God, what happens if another streamer pops up or like, and they grow bigger than I do, or like a big streamer decides to get into that game. Am I going to grow? Am I not going to grow? Then you end up in the third phase where like you're looking around, you've got a bunch of followers, a lot of people are like liking your tweets, you start attracting hate farmers, by the way. So that's the other thing that happens when you get really big, right? Is there's a group of people that are hate farmers. And so these are people that have YouTube channels or like Twitch Reacts or whatever. And the purpose of their content, the food for their content is like reacting or trashing you as a very large streamer. So there's like a bunch of stuff that goes into this in terms of social media and comparison that just amplifies all three layers of burnout. And if you want to know, like, you know, why are people like this? You know, I totally get what people are saying. Like, everyone's depressed and streaming. You know, like the Wall Street Journal, it's like even penetrated into like mainstream media, and the Wall Street Journal is writing an article about it. And why is that? It's because there's a particular thing going on, right? Like this is something that's a common shared experience that most content creators have. And so we try to help people with this stuff. I think that this is like part of the problem is that, you know, you can go see a psychiatrist or a therapist. And I know a lot of streamers that have really benefited from seeking mental health treatment, which I think is fantastic. And at the same time, like no one is going to teach you this in medical school, right? Like they're not going to teach you the content creator burnout life cycle because this is a new thing. There have not been studies published on this. So the best that we've got is like noobs like us, like actually working with these people for like a year or two. And this is kind of what we conclude. So thankfully, Twitch is like pretty supportive about this kind of thing. So, you know, this stream sponsored by Twitch, not really, but I mean, like they're good. I think they recognize that this is a problem and like they've been pretty supportive. So we're grateful for that. and those of you, I mean, I guess you guys know, but we have a content creator program, and like this is legit. This is a real thing. I know it's kind of also different because usually we talk about y'all as the audience, right? So like our target audience here at Healthy Gamer is like the chat, right? It's not the streamer. And we sometimes interview big streamers and stuff, like we do that, but that also is not about, it's not so much about streaming, it's more about, like showing y'all that these are like regular, normal human beings who have regular, normal human struggles. So, I think it's, anyway. So if you guys want to understand, like, I completely agree that streamer mental health is tough. And we've seen a lot of burnout. And I think part of the problems is that there are new and specific things that relate to streamer mental health that like can be acted on in a specific and targeted way. And a lot of what we try to do is teach people like, okay, how do you learn? And I think Ludwig even talked about this. So how do you diversify your sense of identity and value outside of streaming? So this is a core thing. When your identity is tied up in your view count, right? Like how many people are watching, then as the view count goes up and down, your identity goes up and down with it. And the problem is because of the way that metrics work. So in the history of humanity, you've never been able to quantify the value of a human being as easily as you can today. So sure, like maybe 100 years ago, you had people who could quantify wealth in some way. You had kings and you had nobles and stuff like that, sure. But you also had like regular people who were like living on a street, and it's like, how much is each human being worth? It's like kind of weird because it wasn't quantified, right? You've got the more popular people, you've got the less popular people. And like, sure, there's clearly a hierarchy, but it's all kind of fuzzy. There's not like a number to it. And now what we've managed to do with the internet is we've like quantified our value as human beings. People are concerned about the social credit score in China. Like the social credit score happened here in the West way earlier than it happened in China. Right? It had to do with things like, and this is how you get like these choosing beggars where like, hey, I'd like to get a cupcake. And then the people are like, okay, cool. Like it's $2 for a cupcake. And they're like, I have 100,000 Instagram followers. You should give it to me for free. This is my value as a human being. And it is worth more than $2. So give me a cupcake, please. Thank you very much. We have quantified value of human beings, right? We've already done it. It's there. And so now that we've like kind of done this, it's like messing up our society. It's kind of bizarre. We've done it already. And so now you've got streamers that are investing their sense of identity with a particular metric, right? That's what I'm worth as a human being. And if I behave in a particular way, so many more people like me, I get more likes, I get more followers, I get more subs. Fantastic. And this happens in other parts of our life too. So this is not just streamer specific. So this is a root issue in yoga called ahankar, or the ego or the sense of identity. As a human being, when you identify and become one with some attribute of your life, your value as a human being goes up and down depending on that metric, right? So me personally, I'm invested in one thing, which is GME. And as GME goes up, I feel like I'm on top of the world. And as GME goes down, I feel like I've wasted all my time and my energy and my life savings into something that will blow up in my face, right? And so like, that's what we do as human beings. For students, right? It's grades. Oh, I didn't get good grades, therefore I'm not a good human being. Sometimes in some devastating situations, it's also the way that we're treated by people like narcissistic parents. Like, oh, my narcissistic parent is mad at me, therefore I am a bad human being. So we peg our identity and our value as human beings to all kinds of metrics. And what happens when you're a content creator and streamer is that it becomes so easy for your brain to quantify your value by pegging it to these external things. So if you want to become healthier, if you want to become freer and ironically make better content, because that's, I think, what we've observed as well. Because remember, it's the thing that caused you to explode in the first place, that authenticity, that lack of expectation, that like, I'm going to show up on the internet and just like have a good time, that causes people to respond the best anyway. So like, it's all, I mean, there's like so much that's changing. And so you have to de-identify from, certain external metrics to find inner peace. Whether you're a student, whether you have a narcissistic parent, whether you're a streamer.